us being all technical with the jingle coming in and the series starting live and everything. Look at this, we're getting more used to being live on the Facebook. And tonight we are also live on YouTube as well. So if you would like to watch us on your TV or whatever it may be, instead of just watching us on your phone, and you can keep your social media and keep scrolling and everything like that while you watch us on YouTube. But thank you very much for joining us. There is a couple of Premiership matches still going as we speak at the moment, and I am 𝗧𝗹𝗸𝗍𝗓. I am joined by Mitchell Davey and Laura Pollard as we go through all the week's news. Laura, I'm going to come to you first. We are going to speak about the GP Challenge. We have four riders confirmed for the SGP series next year. Initial thoughts?
Good. Although I feel like a couple of them in there might just qualify of their own accord. So kind of is like looking a little bit further down the list. But I am really, really happy that Leon Madsen's got his spot back.
Yeah, I mean, Leon is obviously a rider that is more than capable of scoring a lot of points in the Grand Prix as we've seen this year in Prague. Mitchell, definitely someone who can come in and mix things up.
Yeah, and it's a welcome return to him for the Grand Prix series. Like, obviously, his one showing in Prague, he was phenomenal. He made the final, and that's what you want. You want the top riders in the world to be in there, mixing it up, and swapping the point score around round to round. So, yeah, big welcome return to Leon Madsen, and then also, who was it? Yeah, you got Andre Lebedev, as Laura mentioned. He's potentially looking like a good chance to make the top seven. So you then look down the line, Michael Jepsen Jensen on the cusp of potentially a return to the SGP series. But 𝗘𝗽𝗓𝗍𝗶 back in as well, and newcomer Casper Urijnya.
Yeah, and he's got pedigree, family pedigree. I was reading from the GP website as well, which I wasn't aware of. His grandfather actually rode in world finals and actually got a medal, got a bronze medal as well. So, but Laura, I did actually like if you will indulge me a moment for the GP website from what. Casper said after it, it was along the lines. He was asked if it was his dream, but he said that that changed from a dream to a goal when he started riding. I like that attitude and the fact of that it's not a dream for him. It was always his career goal to make it to the Grand Prix series. But hopefully, he can go in there and be competitive as well because we don't want to write anybody off in August before the series starts next year.
That would be really mean. No, I think, do you know what? I didn't know that he'd said that, but I think that is an amazing thing to have done. I guess it makes it kind of like more of a real aim if you change it to a goal. Because I think you could talk to however many little young lads that are walking around in their Kevlars at the start of the meeting now, or even just stood on the terraces, and they could tell you that their dream is to be Speedway World Champion one day. But I've heard a lot about him, and he is talented, isn't he? And I think to change that to a goal is, well, look what he's done now. He's in there. He's ready for next year.
Absolutely. And Mitchell, when you look at Lebedev's, I actually fully expect him to make the top seven now, which obviously opens the door for Michael Jepsen Jensen as well. He's probably unlucky not to qualify off his own back of his own accord, really, wasn't he? But um, the way that he's kind of turned his career around, for the want of a better way of explaining it, to get himself on the cusp of being a Grand Prix rider again is very impressive, and it looks more than likely that that's going to happen.
Yeah, and even like the interviews he's done, like during like the GP Challenge meeting and everything like that, the way he was conducting himself, that you know he feels like he's ready for a return. He's had a really solid tail end of last year, and even this year it's almost like he got re-accepted back into the extra liga and has just built and built and built, and it's got him back set now to that level of being a well, on the verge of a GP rider. So it's good to see, and I think he mixes it up because he's someone who not necessarily would always chase a dirt line. So if he does get in, to have someone that can set the bike up to ride the inside lines, to to really throw a different spanner in the works is quite good, and will be good for the spectacle of the Grand Prix.
Yeah. In terms of 𝗬𝗲𝗍𝗶 though as well, I mean, as I say, the fact that he may make the top seven of his own and Michael Jepsen Jensen may get in, 𝗬𝗲𝗍𝗶 has also got would have had another route in terms of the European Championships, which he's taken advantage of in the past as well. That's quite the way that that's set up in the European Championships this year. I think everyone outside Patrick Dudek has already qualified for it. So essentially, Dudek might squeeze in through the back door in that one, Laura. And I know he's a rider that you very much like as well. So I think if he can go on to be European champion, that's another rider that will add something to the Grand Prix.
I'd love to see him back in there. I think he's really exciting. I think he adds a lot of fight and aggression into his racing and like the style that he rides. Also, he is a bit of a fan favorite, isn't he? Likes to pull a wheelie like at the end of a meeting and really plays to the crowd. And this might be, I don't know, it might be a personal preference, but I think in the GP series at the minute, you're kind of missing those characters. There's like one or two of them that will get put on the show aside from the racing, but not all of them. And I think he would add that back in.
Absolutely. We also had the announcement, Laura, because I'll come at you first on this one because we're going to 𝗧𝗹𝗲𝗍𝗶. We had the announcement
Yes.
that 𝗪𝗲𝗍𝗃𝗍𝗆 will be the wild card, despite the rumours galore, and obviously 𝗪𝗲𝗄𝗏 adding to those rumours over the last week or so in terms of his posts on Instagram. I think it's fair to say maybe in the background he was pushing for that one to be the wild card, but. I don't think there's any surprises here in terms of 𝗪𝗲𝗍𝗃𝗍 being announced as the 𝗧𝗪𝗏𝗏 wildcard. Really, his home track, he's a favourite there. He's a big icon within Polish Speedway. Is it possibly a swan song? Possibly a farewell to this level of Speedway?
Didn't everyone say that last year?
Well, possibly.
No, I'm obviously super happy. I'll be there in my Oxford t-shirt cheering him on. No, I think it's good. And you said he's a home rider, isn't he? So the crowd are
Yeah,
going to love it. It's going to Polish GPs are always a bit of an electric atmosphere, but it'll add to that. And he's capable of mixing it. And it wouldn't surprise
yeah.
me if he gets into one of the 𝗪𝗲𝗃 races.
No, no,
Yeah, we'll
no,
see.
No,
no,
last
no,
chance
no.
Oh, am I not allowed to say
qualifier.
that now?
No, no, last chance qualifiers. We're not doing that.
Why? Does it not work in your accent to say
No,
LCQ?
ooh. 8 minutes in and we're starting with the xenophobia, Laura. Well done. Um,
There's a good mixture of accents on this one tonight.
yeah, we try. For you, Mitchell, Magic and they're capable of mixing it up, possibly throwing a cat amongst the pigeons.
Not as consistently as probably he would like. That is sort of my view on it. I really hope he does turn up and put on a show and make the last chance qualifier. But no, I don't know. That's what I sort of felt a bit in the way, like with obviously the organisers or the social media people of FIM advertising that this morning. Artem's post, there was a bit of hope, and there'd be a fair few people that are disappointed that it's not Artem, but at the same token, you can see why it's Magic, home track, home fans. He's a likable character in Speedway, so he brings that little something extra. And I mean, if he turns up to play, then he is a world class rider at the end of the day.
Yeah, you're really our Polish correspondent here. You watch more of it than what we do. How's Magic been going in Poland this year?
Um, Hit and miss, hit and miss. That's what he started like a freight train on Sunday. There, won his opening ride really convincingly, and then finished I think maybe thirds and last the rest of the evening. So yeah, probably not the level that you used to seeing for Magic. I think that's the biggest thing is everyone got so used to seeing him at such a high level, and I think was that more when Greg Hancock had a massive input into him? I don't know how much Greg assists him now or anything like that. But things have changed now for Magic. It's just missing that consistency at the highest level. He's still a proven performer. There's no doubt about that. But it's just that getting back to that high level again.
So looking at the kind of Magic's kind of form within Poland as well, like you mentioned there, he started like a freight train on Sunday, but what I would kind of take for that is the capability. Laura, you've watched him all season within British racing.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say in the 2 seasons now, because we've only got a handful of meetings left with Oxford. I don't think it's quite hit the expectations of Oxford fans, really, has it?
No. Towards the back end of yeah, no, in a word, towards the back end of last season, you saw flashes like of the magic
Yeah.
of great that everybody was expecting, and it has happened this season. But rather than it being kind of like what Mitch was saying, rather than it being a whole meeting of that, it has just been the odd race here and there.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I want so badly for him to do it. I want it to click, and I want to see what he's capable of week in, week out. But for whichever reason, it just hasn't happened in England anyway this year.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat really. I've always been a massive kind of Magic fan. Luke is obviously my wee boy. He's a massive Magic fan as well. Probably the first rider that, because of his name and stuff as well, that he first gravitated to. So always kind of got a soft spot from in that aspect. Just to set the scene for the show for everybody that's watching at the moment, we are going to be talking Speedway nicknames. So if you've got, what's your favourite ever Speedway nickname? I'm going to ask the guys a wee bit later on in the show as well. So your favourite ever Speedway nicknames, and we'll also chuck in what's the worst nicknames that you've heard. Greg and I have clashed heads in the Talk Speedway chat today in terms of one of these nicknames, one of them being my favourite and one of the ones that he dislikes the most. So we'll see how that goes later in the show. But if you want to drop in the chat below in the comment box, let us know your favourite Speedway nicknames. And we'd also like to get your thoughts, obviously, on the four riders that's qualified for the 2026 Grand Prix series as well. What it does mean, Mitchell, in terms of the top seven, it takes the pressure off. It obviously takes the pressure off Lebedev's and 𝗘𝗽𝗀𝗀. What difference now? Both riders are not riding for medals, and now they're racing for pride. What kind of headspace does and mentally will both riders go into the final couple of Grand Prix then?
I think you could see a real upturn in Lebedev's. You know, you've got that, I guess, the safety net that you can, you can try things maybe that you wouldn't normally try. Just push the envelope that little bit further, just to experiment, just to really see, how far, or how experimental you want to be with the bike setup, just to really put himself in a firm standard, and just give himself more knowledge, I think, for the next year's championship. And I think, yeah, you could see him benefit. And 𝗘𝗽𝗀𝗀 are all the same. He doesn't have to fight now to try and make up those points to get back into the top seven. He's got
Hmm.
a spot solid, and he can just focus on his race and then, yeah, scoring as many points as he can. And I guess proving what he can bring to the Grand Prix calendar.
What does it mean for Max Frick and Robert Lambert, Laura? Because they're both tied in 67 points at the moment. Sitting Max is seventh, Robert Lambert sitting in eighth. Both riders that sandwich them, both above and below, have now qualified. Do you think that changes the mindset for them as well?
Definitely. I think whereas you've got like Lebedevs who, like what Mitch is saying, like the pressure's kind of off, it's probably built the pressure onto those two for sure, and for a number of reasons. They want to get in the top qualifying spots of their own right, but also they're probably in the back of their minds, or I would think anyway, thinking we need to put ourselves out there, we need to impress just in case they're in need of a wild card spot.
Hmm. I think both riders would be pretty safe for a wild card spot. Do you, Laura?
Been surprised in the past with riders that I thought were going to be safe, and then
Yeah.
they're not included. I agree with you, but with those wildcard picks, I honestly think that anything can happen because I think, you know, sometimes maybe a little bit political, the choices, maybe not just on riding capability, but have to wait and see.
Absolutely. Just to move on slightly, we did have some Premiership action tonight with on TNT Sports. We had the Sheffield Tigers against the Bellevue Aces. That one finished up 55-35, and in Leicester, the Lions beat Oxford 50-40. Obviously, I'm going to come to Laura first on this one. Now, as a Oxford fan, you're literally ticking off meetings at the moment in terms
Hmm.
of just to get the season done. Everybody gets through it safely and they get it done because the season's pretty much dead. It's a tough time of the season when your team's not involved in the kind of playoff mix or even have an outside chance of making it, isn't it? Really, because it's a strange feeling when you're not playing for anything.
Hmm. And then, but strangely enough, yes, should be ticking off meetings, but actually, they've got they're riding the best they have all season. um, we're pushing some of the teams a little bit, so kind of 50-40 tonight. Actually, on the scale of things, that could have been expected to be a hell of a lot worse. So yeah, like you said, making sure everybody gets through the season in one piece. But there is still quite a good atmosphere in that team. Maybe the
Yeah.
best it's been all season because no pressure. Can we be a bit of a spoiler maybe for some of the other teams? And just seeing how it goes. But it's weird. The last couple of weeks they've definitely come on stronger than what we have done before.
Laura, how much a miss is Eric Raspin for you?
Massive. Absolutely massive. He was the trump card in that team and he was picking up all of the points where maybe you would have expected like Magic or Rowan to be scoring the big numbers. It was Eric. Um and it's just his fighting spirit on the track and in the pits. It's been a massive loss.
And Mitchell McDermott, I obviously know him very well.
Mhm.
He's been stepping up into the Premiership action. He doesn't seem to be out his depth in any sort of way, but I spoke about him after I was on tour last week. He was eye-catching, to say the least. Definitely
Mhm.
got a big future in front of him. But he seems to have settled well into the Spires team, going to a track tonight that he's probably never seen before as well, scoring paid 7. He's got a massive future in front of him, but I would expect a Premiership team, if that's the way that the leagues are going to be set up next year, to maybe take a wee gamble on him for next year as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like when you meet Mitch off track and on track, he's only 17 years old, but the professionalism around him and his whole attitude towards the sport is amazing. Obviously, he's kind of learnt his craft, his competitiveness in Poland mainly, which is where he spent the majority of his time. And I think because in Poland it's higher pressure, isn't it? There's a lot more expected of you as an athlete, as a rider, and so I think he's coming over here. He's having a go in the Premiership, and he's just not phased by it. Yourself and what I've heard quite a lot of other people say when they've watched him is that he attacks the tracks. Like
Hmm.
he's never seen pretty much all of these tracks that he's riding now before, but he's going at them like he's ridden them week in week out. And yeah, a really, really professional young lad and a big future, I believe, ahead of him.
Yeah, he definitely seems that way, as if he's got his head screwed on. As I say, I think Greg mentioned it in a previous show that a company like Ball, who sponsors some of the biggest riders in the world, they don't take a leap of faith with a rider that age either, unless they've got something about them. And he definitely has got something about him. You could see that. I mean, I've only seen him ride twice in the flesh, both in very difficult tracks in terms of Pool and Berwick for the first time. Well, it wouldn't have been the first time he'd seen Pool, but definitely the first time that he'd seen Berwick. So it was very impressive to see how he adapted to that. But I suppose this is a learning season for him, Mitchell, because you would have been in the same shoes as him, coming over here as a young man, having to learn. Well, first of all, how to navigate, how to get everywhere, how to get parts for your bike and X, Y, and Z, and then have to get used to all the different types of tracks. It's a massive undertaking as well, but he seems to have taken to it like a duck to water.
Yeah, and sometimes it's the most beneficial thing being young when you do that because you don't overthink it. You're young, you're fearless, you're getting to live out your dream job. He's probably thought about it for many years. Like this is what he wants to do. He wants to come to Europe and race, and he's just taking it all in his stride, and doesn't seem to be put off by anything. Like he has meetings where like he scores not the greatest, and then he goes out in the premiership tonight. I think he finished with a race win. So he's learnt the track on the night, and then comfortably teamed up with Peter Kilderman for a 5-1 in Heat 14 for Oxford. So he's adapting.
Yeah, he's definitely adapting. Looking at the other side of the pit, so Laura, in terms of Leicester, a guy you obviously know well as well is Sam Masters. He is absolutely flying at the moment. There's an old Scottish saying about people that make a lot of money. His wains will no go hungry is effectively what I would say about Sam at the moment. Scored 20 points in the championship last week, and against Redcar, and then 16 points tonight. He's in a rich vein of form at the moment, Sam.
Isn't he? If he doesn't win several awards, so like Riders of the Year at the season, something has gone horribly wrong with the voting. um, he's just everything he does is amazing, isn't it? And I think he made a comment. I didn't hear it, but someone said that he's made a bit of a comment in one of his interviews. I think it was with BSN or something at Sheffield, where he's here racing against the GP riders and he's beating them all of the time. But why isn't he riding at that level? Why is he not doing the challenges? I don't know. I feel like he should. But anyway, that could go off on a whole tangent.
Yeah.
At Oxford, he
Australia have got some not bad riders, in fairness to them.
mhm. Yeah, and him.
Yeah.
He had that see on his social media where someone stole one of his engines recently, though.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that wasn't the best thing in the world.
That's not good, and obviously we shared that post as well on the Talk Speedway socials as well, because Mitchell, you'll know that engine's absolutely useless to anybody unless they're scrapping it. It's nonsensical to steal something like that.
Yeah, and that's why I think it was stolen in the Birmingham area. So I can't see someone bolting it into a push bike or anything like that. It's just not
No.
going to happen. But the amount of shares that engine's way too hot to handle for anyone. So fingers crossed he's got it back, or someone knows something for him to get it back, because yeah, engines are expensive things, and he's obviously scoring the points that he could buy another one, but there's a reason why he's got that one, and he's probably tried it, tested it, and got it to the level that he wants it at. So it's more than just the outlay for an engine; it's the time you spend learning them and that. So fingers crossed he has got it back, and yeah, he doesn't look like he needs it. But the engine he's got is working a treat. But yeah, that's
I
what.
think
No,
going by what I've heard through the grapevine, it was actually more a sentimental engine to him as well, though, Mitchell. I think it's one that he's had for a number of years. And I think that's one of the reasons why he was so gutted as well. And actually, as I'm saying that, Greg Blair's just posted that in the chat and
yeah,
on the Facebook page there as well. I think it was actually Greg that had said that to me, that it was more of a sentimental thing. It's one that he's had for a number of years since he's raced in the UK. So yeah, Paul Capaldi has messaged in, Laura, I'll fire this one at you. So it's not Sam's fault, but
Cheers.
how can he be a heat leader in both leagues? But I wouldn't say he's the only one that's doing that, but he's certainly one of the ones that's definitely in form at the moment and racking up the points and could be a heat leader in both divisions fairly comfortably.
Yeah, I think it's just goes to show how much of an amazing season that he's had. You'll know the answer to this one better than me, Frame. Did he start the season as a heat leader as well at Leicester?
At Leicester, I think he would have. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
I think he would have. Yeah, just if you
yeah.
give me a minute,
To be like
I would
even
just.
even
Yeah,
more impressive
yeah.
that he's maintained it as
I
well.
think he was in number three, really, three or four. He would have
Yeah, I was going to
started
say,
at.
yeah, I think he's been number 3 or 5 all season long.
Mm.
Yeah, and
Don't put me in
there's
the
a couple
spot like
of
that
weird
again, Laura,
things.
please.
Sorry, I'm not gonna be allowed back after tonight. But it's a good point. is this something that needs looking at in the system? I said this the other day, but it was completely the opposite end of the team. So you've got like 𝗬𝗃𝗃𝗍, who's your rising star, but is also a reserve in the championship, which you wouldn't necessarily expect. So I think there's a couple of kind of examples where it doesn't really make much sense, but it's just the way that their seasons have panned out.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's quite common for the kind of top guys. I mean, I'm looking at the Oxford team tonight, and Charles Wright's at number one for the Spires and for Redcar. Now, I think he's number one at the Spires, not for the right reasons, probably for the wrong reasons, because as we've said all year long, the Spires have got a team where you look at the kind of racing order and there's people in positions that you wouldn't necessarily expect them to be in. Charles Wright being number one for the Spires being one of them.
Yeah, and it's a thing that sort of happened over the past few years. Once they allowed Dublin up and sort of the premiership level changed in a way from there wasn't that clear difference between championship and premiership. There's always going to be that crossover. There's so many top riders in the championship that are equal to or better than number ones in the premiership. So it's more like, I guess, the British system that does it than sort of changes the, I guess, it's not the rider's fault, as Paul has said. It's probably just more the way that the British Speedway has sort of watered down, I guess, the top product.
I would say over the last few well, the last maybe 5 years, there's definitely been a shift in the way that the points limits and stuff like that to try and maybe dilute the championship slightly, therefore making the top league more look more like a top league, if that makes sense. But as I say, we don't know how that's going to pan out over the next few years. Doubling up has been a good thing in one sense for the sheer fact of when you look at available riders availability, that there isn't a lot of riders out there. When promoters are looking at riders, there's not a lot that are willing to come, or we do have a problem in the UK regarding visas and stuff like that. It's not just as easy as calling up someone who's going well in Denmark and getting them over. There's a lot of paperwork and a lot of expense in the background for clubs to do that as well. So it does make it difficult. So in a sense, it's been good. In a different sense for doubling up as well, I think it's hindered some people from moving on and becoming like you mentioned, Laura, there in terms of like Sam kicking on, being involved in Grand Prix qualifiers, etc. Now, see if I look at a parallel in terms of Jason Doyle. When Jason Doyle wasn't allowed to double up because of his visa issues, he then went and raced in Sweden, and then his career kicked on. I just wonder if there's maybe a few riders who want to earn a living and make a good living out of Speedway, that but if they had cut that cord and kicked on, we don't know how good they would have went on to be. It's an interesting discussion, but obviously it's a hypothetical one.
Yeah, I think it also goes, I think, maybe is on the ambition of the rider, because I made a comment earlier that, every young lad wants to be world champion, but maybe that's not the case when you are racing full time. Maybe to some people it is just more of having that consistent career. Um, you got like riders like, you can look back a little bit, like even though he was a GP rider, you had like Lee Adams back in the day. It was like always top of, I think it was the Elite League then, wasn't it?
Hmm.
Averages, and was unbeatable and was beating the guys in the league. But as soon as you stepped up to that Grand Prix level, he wasn't beating the same guys all of the time. So I think it goes back a long way, and it's nothing too dissimilar to that now.
Not too dissimilar, I would say, but that takes us on to the Sheffield Bellevue match. And I'm going to take Innes Lang's comment here about Mitchell, how good has Leon Flint been in the past few weeks. It's fantastic to see. We're all mates with Leon, so we're going to be mega biased here. But I think the bias in terms of that is well deserved in this instance, because he's hitting that rich vein of form. And there is people that would doubt Leon in terms of, I've heard people talking about equipment, fitness, and God knows what else. But he's certainly shutting a few people up now, and he's really, really kicked on with Sheffield this year. I'm absolutely delighted for him. But at the moment, if he had wins, they would definitely not be going hungry. But he's definitely racking up some big points. 13 points tonight, 4 race wins. It's that's your rising star, Mitchell.
Oh, and you love to see it. You absolutely love to see it. You know, for me, it's Leon's gating. His gating has improved just so much. I don't think he's ever been known for being a gator, but 5 from 5 tonight. You know, he was unlucky to get past in that one race, which cost him another maximum. But he's moved it up another level. He is, you know, I guess where you've got shit. He is like it's like really good to see because that is what they wanted for the British youth coming through to take those stepping stones to build their career. It puts them up in those against the big boys, and he's holding his own, and you know has absolutely dominated. He's a fierce opponent, especially around Sheffield. My God, he's on form.
Absolutely, and Laura, it's not just at Sheffield. You seen him at close quarters on Wednesday night when Oxford took on Redcar and he actually beat Sam Masters, someone we just hyped up to the maximum there. But Leon, I would say the race that he actually beat him, Sam looked as if he was going to get round outside him. Leon nicked up the inside, and I don't say that's lightly. He was untroubled by Sam.
Yeah, and that's probably only happened once or twice around Oxford this season. He's just in amazing form, and like Mitch said, we love to see it. I'm super happy for him. He's just kind of quietly gone about his business. He's not had like mad amounts of media attention on him. Not really a great deal of pressure. I think he said tonight in one of his interviews that he'd been described as a slow burner. So it was time to step it up a little bit. Did you see that? He did.
Yeah.
I'm just so happy for him. I think he needed a good season this year, and he had that injury which was unfortunate, but almost looks like the little break did him the world of good, and he's hit the ground running.
Absolutely. Um, what I would say as well, Mitch, one thing that was really nice, we'll get to some of the championship action, sorry, from last week. But one thing that was nice in his BSN interview when he was talking about beating Sam Masters, he still got the kind of fan and the youngster kind of mentality of Sam's my idol and I beat him. Because I remember a good few years ago, as I say, I'm good mates with Leon, so he was telling me that one winter he spent watching when he was at Wolverhampton, he spent watching Sam Masters videos about how he rode it, how his style on the bike, how his movements on the bike, etc., etc. So it's actually nice to hear a rider like when he's so honest to go, Sam's my idol. Like Sam won't bat an eyelid at beating me, but I can assure you, I'll remember that. But that's what you want to hear, that rawness as well, don't you?
Yeah, and you said that like Leon's an old dog. He's only a little boy. He's so young still. It's just that he's been riding for so long already, But yeah, that's what you still get that excitement out of him, and to come, especially to pick off Sam around Oxford. That's got to go down to one of his highlights of the year, no doubt. And you love to see it. That's what Speedway as a youngster coming up. You pick your idols, you race against them, you beat them, and you chalk it up as little stepping stones, I guess, in building your own career. And I see he's already being compared to as good as Gary Flint's career.
For anybody that's looking for a laugh, there is a video on YouTube somewhere of Gary Flint being beat by a hare at Linlithgow. So if anybody's looking for searching once the live's over and done with, they could probably go and find that somewhere. Or Gary's got that link on his phone, and I know he'll be watching. So Gary, if you can maybe post that in later on for us, save everybody a job or try to find it as well. Um, Sheffield, not a one-man team, not by any stretch of the imagination, Laura. They did make 2 team changes not that long ago. We see Nick Morris coming back into British Speedway with both Berwick and Sheffield, and Jai Etheridge comes into the Tigers side. Both of those guys replace Justin Sedgman and Louis Kerr. What's your thoughts on the changes there? I think I'm a wee bit surprised at making the changes just now. especially with it's obviously the guys came in after Ty unfortunately got injured as well. But what do you think of the changes? Because I won't lie, I see it as a big risk because Sheffield were quite dominant at home until they get beat off Leicester. One blip really, but I see it as a gamble. How do you see it?
Yeah, not too dissimilar to yourself. I see it as a gamble, but a gamble they probably had to take. I think the two riders that unfortunately lost their team places, they didn't look like they were gonna cause waves. They didn't look like they were gonna get any better in that team. I think it was a really big risk, especially with Nick Morris, because nobody knew what he was going to be like when he's come back. And watching it tonight, he was impressive, and he was just like really disappointed when Brady got round him. And like this is the guy that's pushing for the world title, and like you've nearly beat him. So the ambition is there, and I think brave changes, but I think they're going to pay off.
How do you see it, Mitchell?
Um, I think a lot had to do with the timing of the average changes of why they had to bring them in. I'm sure. I guess in a way, Sheffield would have been wanting to watch Nick Morris how he was performing with Berwick in the championship before taking the risk. But I mean, I'm watching Nick's scores with a keen eye, and you can tell the more laps, the more races he's doing, he's getting back to the what he's known for really quick. So it's impressive to see, and although it was risky at the time, I can see what they were hoping for, and I guess they're just going to hope that they keep building on it. Yeah, it's a hard one to call, but obviously Sheffield felt it was the right thing to do. It might not have been obviously, I don't know whether it was home form or away form that they were worried about, and that's what they've tried to correct by replacing those two riders. I just don't know, but obviously Simon Stead knows what he's doing, so he's took the risk, and I think they're trying to be better from it.
Laura, Jack Holder in tonight's meeting, 13 points. He rattled off 4 heat wins as well. He looked good, looked impressive. It's always nice to see when you see Grand Prix riders coming up against Grand Prix riders. It's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? Because Mitchell mentioned a couple of shows ago about Brady coming up against Bartosz in Poland as well. But when your Bewleys, Kurtz, and Holder all come to the mix, especially on a track like Sheffield, it's box office really.
Yeah, it almost looked like it was a GP tonight. And at times when they were up against each other, they didn't look like they were holding back at all. And it's probably good for them, isn't it, racing each other week in, week out, or every now and again, rather than just coming up against each other in GPs. Kind of keeps it fresh, keeps it hungry for it. And yeah, I'm excited for the next GP for watching him for sure.
Another worrying away performance for Bellevue, Mitchell.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to a lot of last places again, doesn't it? Just not being able to pack the minors. You know, I'm looking through the scorecard right now, and one I feel for is 𝗬𝗪𝗍𝗍. I felt like he seemed to ride a lot better than the I guess the zero that he scored. Even Jake Mulford, he showed good pace in Heat 2, and I thought he would have actually come away with more points because he had the pace, but obviously only came away with those two. So yeah, it's not ideal, especially when it comes to playoff season and it's a home and away fixture. They sort of need to clean up those away fixtures. They know they're good at Bellevue, and I think if they want to push for that title, they need to clean up these away performances and really knuckle down to keep them close.
Jake Mulford's an interesting one, Mitchell, because I'll come to you on this because you'll maybe understand it maybe a bit better than what maybe Laura and I will. When I spoke to Gavin Parr, his team manager at Redcar a few weeks ago, he was saying how sorry he feels for Jake Mulford at the moment because maybe the season that he's having with Bellevue has kind of killed his confidence a bit. Maybe not riding his potential. Racing in the SGP2 a drain in the finances racing for Team GB abroad as well, finding it really tough. Again, missing red car meetings and stuff as well. And we spoke about that. We won't get into all the kind of under 24 stuff and that again. But is that something that can happen to a rider in terms of you're almost a victim of your own success, really, where you've got a rider who's developing, doing well in maybe the British under 21s, being recognised, qualifying for the SGP Tour series, getting into Team GP squads, etc., etc. You're almost a victim of your own success then, where it's taking you away from your own league racing, where you're actually going to earn money slightly, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's 100% the truth. You know, he had a really good year last year, put his name on the map, and now obviously he's had a good season. He qualified for the under 21 world final, so you know I'm sure that's an absolutely excellent opportunity for him. But at the same token, I'm thinking about when you obviously listen off all those meetings and what he's doing now, the amount of his fixtures, how much have they gone up compared to maybe last year? That's a bigger drain. I think if you can't slowly bet into that, and then you go into, you know, you're racing 3 4 times a week, you got to fly in, fly out, and everything like that. It's a big jump just from racing just British leagues. There's no preparing for it, and you know his fixture list, his schedule is going to be a lot more involved, and you know he's got to worry about getting bikes to here, there, and everywhere. You know he might not have been set up to have bikes in Europe. You know, might need to travel bikes out from Britain every time that there's a meeting comes up in Europe. So that's massive expenditure and massive planning that you know he's got to worry about. I'm sure he's got a great team of people around him, but yeah, you feel you wish there was a bit more assistance, or you know, like I guess the youth team, you know, sort of helps cater and nurture and sort of teach people how to do it or assist in any whatever way they can. Hopefully they do, and I'm just you know just obviously talking absolute rubbish, but yeah, it's just a complete turnaround, I guess, or you know multiplier of things that you got to worry about. You know you got to think about, you got to plan everything, and then you got to turn up and race, and sometimes it doesn't go your way. And I feel for him because you know he's a talented rider and really good, so I'm sure it will come good again for him, but it's just yeah, it's just that learning curve that he's undergoing this year.
Yeah, I do worry about Bellevue's form away from home heading into the playoffs. I think that's going to need to improve if they're even going to get through the semi-finals. Never mind defend their title. So be interesting to see how that all plays out, because I can see from the top four there's other sides that are in the top four that are a wee bit more consistent, keep it a wee bit tighter away from home at the moment. But that can all turn round at the end of the day. Bellevue's got a top side with top riders in it, so it'll be interesting to see how that's going to play out over the next month or so. Jamie Loveday and Paul, I will get to your questions and remarks in just in a moment. I just want to tie up the Premiership action from last week. We'll go back to Thursday. Laura, you were at Ipswich. We cover quite a lot of meetings between us all, don't we? We put the miles in for this podcast, really, don't we? But you were at Ipswich versus Oxford on Thursday
Hmm.
night. It was a big win for the Witches, 54-36. From both sides of that, Laura, were you impressed by the Witches' performance?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think they're even though they claim to have not have had the best night, they were really impressive. You've got your stars there, but Tom Brennan as well was really good. And to be honest, they all had a really decent night. Um, the Spires pushed them a lot more than I expected, and I think 2 points ahead at one point. Couldn't believe it. um, but yeah, good. It was actually a really much closer meeting than what the scoreline suggested. It was good racing.
Is it another example of maybe teams kind of losing it in the second half of the meeting, Laura?
Yeah, definitely. Having those out and out number one and five in your team, definitely gave Ipswich a massive advantage for sure.
Mitchell, how good a form is Tom Brennan in at the moment? We're talking about riders that are banging form. Managed to see Tom in the KO Cup final, guesting for Leicester last week. Thought he's, again, we keep talking about how he's matured into this. He's maturing into this world kind of class rider, but again, this season we can see strides that he's making. He's involved in the European Championships, all these kind of experiences, cutting the ties for the championship, kind of what I was talking about earlier in terms of maybe kicking on with your career. He's established now at Big Gosh as well, but he's definitely making the right noises and the right strides in the sport, and his form's excellent at the moment as well.
Yeah, and I feel those KO Cup meetings were a real catalyst for him. You know, I'm part of a few different group chats, and there was a bit of talk. You know, he just wasn't hitting the heights, I guess, that everyone was hoping for him. And then he turned up in those KO Cup matches and just reeled off win after win after win. And he's just built from that, and it's just shown across all his racing that he's doing. He's someone he's got that flair about him that you can see when he's feeling it, and you know when he's going to score well. So it's good to see. And like you say, like with you saying, like cutting the ties with the championship, it was a risky move, but it's what needs to happen. I think if you need to progress, that's the risk you had to take, and you know, props to him for making it pay dividends.
Yeah, and it put Ipswich firmly top of the Premiership table as well. Even despite tonight's results, they will remain top of the division without turning a wheel. I just want to say a big kind of shout out to Danny King. I know he's had a kind of rough time in terms of, I think he'd hurt his hand, his wrist that he'd injured last season at Oxford. Again, aggravated that at Ipswich and Redcars. Big, obviously, he did the charity walk with us, Laura. Really nice guy, and he was in a lot of pain after Friday night's matches against the Bandits. So just want to give a wee shout out to Danny as well. Hope he's on the mend and the wrist's feeling a bit better. And of course, Danny had his charity golf day last week as well. So if you could head over to kind of Danny's social media as well, you'll see the details on that. I think it was for prostate cancer. They did a big golf day. So if you want to head over there, you can find out more information about what Danny and the guys were up to there. So before we head on to the championship, to kind of look back and look ahead, kind of, I'll just let you know about something that we did last week as well. So Jamie Loveday said, bring back Peterborough Panthers. Now that fits in with the podcast that myself and Graham did last week with Brian Connolly, who is a consultant to a lot of consortiums who are trying to bring back Speedway to venues up and down the country. I suggest that not even if you're a fan of those clubs, I suggest any Speedway fan to have a listen to Brian on the podcast, because he's someone until the Premiership Media Day this year that I didn't know existed. There's someone like him who's a retired solicitor who helps build cases and speaks to MPs and councillors and solicitors and KCs to try and get the legal stuff in place to try and revive these clubs. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the legal stuff. He definitely looks over the planning applications and stuff to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. But there is someone like Brian fighting the corner for all these tracks. It's a really, really interesting listen. I suggest if you're a fan of Coventry, Peterborough, Rye House, Wolverhampton, Arena Essex, Swindon. Yeah, to definitely listen to that podcast. But as I say, I suggest any fans who's watching this and you've not listened to it, it's really, really worth listening to. I'm really proud the podcast that we put together there. Mitchell, Paul Capaldi has asked a question, and I think it's going to put you in the spot, but I'm assuming that you've already seen the question, so maybe you've had a chance to think about it. Which team has had the most Queenslanders? Are you even a Queenslander, Mitchell? Yeah?
How dare you? Yes, I am. Jesus.
Hey, mommy, no.
You used to look after my stuff. That's yeah. Yeah. I seen the question pop up, and I immediately started thinking, where does the parameters lie? How far back are we going in history? What are we talking championship? Are we talking all over? And then I started racking my brains of Queenslanders that have ridden in Britain, and I mean, there's plenty to choose from. Um, but I mean, you'd almost say Poole just because
Yeah.
they always do, but at the same token, they've always had a lot of New South Wales riders as well, or Victorians. So yeah, it's a hard one just narrowing it down to Queenslanders. So I'm more than open to be told what
Right,
team
so
it is.
let me reframe the question then, Mitchell. Who's your favourite ever Queenslander, if that's a word, uh, rider?
That is, um, oh, you got to go like Jason Crump or Darcy Ward.
There you go. That was easy. Who? So for fans, obviously Paul's mentioned that question. So if you're a fan and you're watching this and you've got a favourite Queenslander rider, drop it in and we'll read it out on the show because I don't know the difference between all the states in Australia. There you go. Emma King has said that she listened to the podcast with Brian Conley and it was a great insight. Thank you very much for that, Emma. As we look back at last week, Laura, another loss for the Cheetahs at home against the Red Car Bears. Is it one too many home losses? Because there has been a few this season now, and do you think it's going to shoot the Cheetahs in the foot slightly, especially after a win at Berwick the previous Saturday?
Yeah, in terms of playoffs, I think so, for sure. I think spoke to Luke earlier. We did like the radio thing, and he said basically the Cheetahs have to win everything and hope that Redcar have a disaster. And they got some tough meetings coming up with Glasgow and Poole. So with the playoffs, it's maybe one step too far. There's still the hope of a bit of silverware in either of the other competitions.
Yeah, because you face Poole just shortly in the what would that be, the BSN semi final?
In all honesty, I feel like we race Poole every week, and I'm not sure which fixture is which. But I know that we're away to Poole this coming Wednesday, and then home to them on the 20th.
And you don't know what competition that's in, I'll let you know it's the BSN Series semi-final first leg. So there you go. I'll help you out. I'll help you out
I never
slightly on
know
that
which
one.
team I'm turning up for which meeting at the track each week. The competitions are a bit too far for me.
Absolutely. Mitchell Poole were at home on Wednesday as well. They seen off the Plymouth Gladiators 48 points to 42. Again, we spoke after the Oxford Poole meeting the week before, and it was tighter. Gladiators pushing them all the way there as well. Again, tighter than what I would have expected it to be.
Yeah, and like I've said it before, it's the caliber of the championship this year. There's so many potentials to upset or to run teams close, and it's good to see no one's got that home dominance. Like no one wants to see 60-30s for their home team. You want to have a bit of nail biting action. A bit of I don't know, you hear the talk about the controversy and everything like that. So it's good to see, and Plymouth. I don't know if they still mathematically can do it or not, but they're building slowly, and could they provide a late season charge? I don't know, but that they should hopefully take the benefits from running Poole so close.
Yeah, in previous seasons, I think 21 points has normally been enough to get you into the playoffs. Again, you probably need to be Rachel Riley to work it out at the moment what it's going to be, but I assume somewhere within that 21 point mark is going to be enough to get you in there. Mitchell Edinburgh's put themselves in a very strong position because on Friday night they beat Scunthorpe 48-42. Armadale, they'd obviously won at Scunthorpe as well. It was about not being complacent in the home meeting and making sure you get the win, get the bonus point, and you take 5 points from the two matches against Scunthorpe, and it really propels them into a very good position at the moment. They're sitting third in the table on 18 points. They are now 6 points clear of Oxford, having raced a meeting less. That's a very strong position for the Monarchs.
Yeah, and I think everyone knew that was a very important meeting. To obviously they did the hard yards away from home, and they needed to finish the job at home, collect the bonus point, and also get the 2 points on the night. And the riders are well aware. I got a feeling. I know Paco sort of keeps a keen eye on it, so he will he'll keep the riders in check as captain, just to let them know what they need from each meeting. I think the promotion do as well, and yeah, they put themselves in a good spot. But again, can't be complacent. Got to keep building. They got a couple more home meetings to do, so got to really make sure those 2 points are all in the bag.
Laura, there was two other meetings on Friday evening. Glasgow took on Workington and they managed to see off the Comets 48-42 in the last heat decider, and Redcar beat Berwick 47-43, again seen off the Bandits in the last heat decider. The Bandits took the bonus point in that match though, and just looking at, I mean, I was at Redcar on Friday night. I have to say a big shout out. I've been at Redcar the last 2 weeks. Some of the racing that I've seen in the last 2 weeks at Redcar has been the best that I've seen in a long time. Like, I wish Redcar was round the corner from me. I don't think I'll be away for it. I absolutely adore going to Redcar. The racing is phenomenal. And it served up some fantastic racing on Friday evening. I believe for BSM viewers, you've seen some of the clips. And Laura, the Heat 15 from the Echo Arena was insane. There was two permutations as well. If it could have ended in a draw on the night, to which there would have been a super heat, it could have ended level in points for the bonus point, which would have went to a super heat. There was all these different permutations, and four riders in the last heat just going absolutely at it, throwing bikes at one another. And at the end of the first lap, they all come over in a gate position as they come over the start finish line, and it was absolutely insane. It was a fantastic, up there as one of the races of the season for me.
Yeah, it's been all over my newsfeed everywhere.
Uh,
I didn't see it live. I was traveling to Workington, but it was unreal, wasn't it? And I wish I had seen it live. But like you said, I don't think I've watched bad meeting from Redcar this year at all. It's definitely provided a really good racetrack and some pretty tough results, some pretty close results as well. Like everybody running each other close. Kind of wish it had gone down to like a super heat or something, just for the ultimate finale.
Yeah, and Mitchell, it goes to your point as well. When you look at Friday night's results in the championship, two 48-42s and a 47-43, it just goes to show how tough the division is really. Because, I mean, even for a team like Scunthorpe, who's probably, the playoff hopes are probably gone now, Bandits absolutely scrapping for their lives at the moment to keep in that playoff hunt. And Workington as well, they've raced less meetings than everybody else, but ultimately they're playing catch up and they're not letting anything go either. Again, the strength of the division is insane. For the Glasgow point of view, though, I did speak to 𝗬𝗲𝗄𝗏 on Saturday night at Berwick, and although they are winning meetings at home outside the kind of Scunthorpe match, it's a lot tighter than what it should be for what it would like it to be for the Tigers really at home. And I thought this would have been a bigger score than 48-42. So fair play to the Comets for keeping it tight all night.
Yeah. See, I don't think Workington can be underestimated. It's full of, like, Bachelor's obviously, he's been at Grand Prix level. He's a performer. On his day, he can beat anyone and anybody. And they're a team full of young boys that just want to race, and they will give up 110% no matter who you are, where you are, or anything like that. And I think it's good. And I actually thought it would go close, just sheerly based on a team of racers that Workington have. Workington's a fast track. Glasgow's a fast track. There's and that's always going to keep it closer because the Workington boys may not have had to search for. So
Yeah, I think we're losing.
Gannicket
I think we're losing Mitchell's headset
Edinburgh,
at
I
this
was
particular point, and the microphone's gone. Mitch, you might want to take the earbuds out. What before we go back to Mitchell, just to get that last point on Glasgow, we are going to say goodbye to Laura. Apparently, she's got an early morning tomorrow, so she's
Oh,
leaving us
no.
at this point. So thank you very much, Laura. We'll catch up with you again over the next couple of weeks, but we'll let you go and we'll get back to Mitchell. But thanks, Laura. Cheers.
I'll send you my favourite and least favourite nicknames as well.
Yes, do that, please. Stick that in the chat now that you've got some time to think about it. You're
I will.
only invoice me for half a shift, right? So that'll be fine. That'll be fine as well.
I
But
know.
as I say,
Right.
a big goodbye to Laura. We're going to go back to Mitchell now.
See you
Mitchell, have
later.
you maybe sorted out the microphone situation? And we've lost Mitchell as well, so it's just me on my lonesome yet again. Innes, I see your comment there in terms of Vilas Naho missing for Glasgow. He's been an absolute sensation since he started with the Tigers as well. Definitely any team would miss him, especially in the second string position, and he's really been a sensation for Glasgow since he's moved there. So yeah, absolutely going to be a miss. As I say, the Bandits were racing at Redcar on Friday night. They managed to take the bonus point from that. They also followed it up with a big win over Scunthorpe on Saturday evening. They beat the Scorpions 54-36, which probably strengthened the playoff claim slightly, but with 4 meetings left, they're probably looking at winning all 4 matches, taking bonus points and 10 points to give themselves an outside chance of the playoffs there as well. But it was a fantastic night. Nick Morris, Mitchell spoke about him earlier on in the evening. He scored, I think it was 13 points on the night, paid 14. He was superb. We see the old Nick coming back. Looks as if he's just starting to get the gating gloves on, which is obviously going to help him in the long run as well. But absolutely fearless around the boards around Shielfield on Saturday evening and helping the Bandits to a big win. Scunthorpe, they were hampered by the fact that Jake Allen was forced to pull out through injury. Simon Lambert and Steve Worrell, both very busy men on Saturday evening for the Scorpions. So, yeah, it was a big win for the Bandits there as well. But as you say, the Monarchs, they managed to get themselves another bonus point to keep up their playoff push. And they're definitely right in the mix in their position in the table as well. I think Mitchell's just coming back to join me here as we're going to talk about Saturday night's action. As I say, we just covered off the Berwick Bandits, so I won't ask Mitchell about that one. But Workington seen off the challenge from the Oxford Cheetahs on Saturday evening. Mitchell, that one I did expect it to be close, but that's a very good result for Workington against Oxford, and as I say, keeps them in the hunt. I'm not sure because of the amount of meetings they've raced how they're going to shake out, but winning Speedway meetings will definitely get you in the mix sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I guess the biggest thing keeping an eye on from Workington is, that they had that chunk where meetings got postponed. So they are really playing catch up in the meetings that they've got to run, and they've got plenty of opportunities, I guess, to get their their points tally up at the end of the day. They got potential in the team, and the more racing the boys are doing and the more time on track they're spending, it's only going to be beneficial to them. And they got the ability to push for that I guess last playoff spot.
You mentioned as well earlier on the show about Plymouth building slowly. A win over Poole on Saturday night, 47-43. Poole just scraping the bonus point there with that one because of the home win of 48-42 on Wednesday. That's something that in the past that would have been a kind of gimme for Poole. I don't mean that in the way that it sounds, but because they visit there in the BSN series. They're not a team that only go to Plymouth once a year and are maybe caught out with conditions, etc. They're a team that are very used to racing at Plymouth as well. But it sounded, I've not seen the meeting, so can't comment on it really. But reading the reports and stuff, apparently it was a cracking meeting. And fair play to Plymouth as well. You got to win meetings, and again, if you're going to have outside hopes in making the playoffs, you've got to beat the big teams as well. And Poole haven't lost many this season, so fair play.
Yeah, and it's that fighting spirit that you love. I seen a few videos. There was a big crowd on hand too to watch them with that performance. And I think it might have been Plymouth's social media. They posted a clip. This the fans are in the stands on their feet applauding. I think the race win and things like that. And you love to see it because that's what you want to see at Speedway. You want to see that fight, that hunger. You want to see the home team wins. You want to see battling wins. And at the end of the day, you just want to be, I guess, entertained, isn't it? It's an entertainment sport. So
I thought you were going to go full gladiator on us there, Mitchell. I thought that's where you were going. The irony.
But yeah, that's what. Yeah, it's a really, I was quite like taken aback watching their social media post about the crowd and how they loved it and everything like that. A battling performance and getting those home wins. And again, it only spurs teams on. The riders, they love that energy. They feel it. They thrive off it, and it's what you want. It's perfect.
𝗘𝗽𝗶𝘀𝗆𝗆 has just commented on in terms of the playoff race and nobody catching Redcar. I think the big problem that Redcar have, and we've seen that on Friday because it was a big miss and it put the boys under a bit of pressure in terms of the rider replacement for Eric Riss. I think that's going to be the big test for them, Mitchell, isn't it? Because as Paul said, with 3 at home and 2 away, I think most days would expect them to get it over the line and make the playoffs, but it just adds that element of doubt to it, doesn't it? Where if you are a rider down and you're not covering the ride sufficiently, then it can be a massive hindrance.
Yeah, and that's the thing you sort of got to stay aware of, and you got to stay, I guess, privy to, don't you? You got to keep the ball rolling. You got to make sure all bases are covered and that you can cover, where you need to, whether you're operating RR or whether you're taking on a guest facility. You want to make sure they're covering the points that you require for the team to get those solid home wins. And it is that risky time of the year, where there's a bit more pressure on guest bookings or your team taking RR rides, and they feel it, they know about it, and yeah, it's a tough job for team managers and also the riders. You can feel the pressure sort of ramping up now, no matter where you are, what tracks you're at. So it's good and it's enjoyable, but at the same time, I prefer being on this side of the helmet.
Yeah, it's better being on Facebook Lives on a Monday night rather than lying face down in an air fence at a track. Point taken. Right, okay. That was Donna that paid me to say that. So, yeah, absolutely. In terms of that, but Roy Clark at Redcar on Friday, he listens to the show every week. You'll know him as the centre group man, formerly of Newcastle. If you go to Workington in Redcar, you'll hear Roy's dulcet tones. He was telling me that one season, he said a year, but it was well before I was born, where Newcastle ran rider replacement for the majority of the season, and if you actually looked at the averages, I think he says that the average for the rider replacement for that year was in the top 5 averages for the league. So it can work in your favour slightly if you work it properly, i.e. Leicester this year as well. But we've seen on Saturday night for Scunthorpe, obviously late notice with Jay Callan pulling out through injury. Their rider replacement rides didn't yield a point, and the only point that came from one of Jake Allen's rides was actually reserve replacement. So sometimes it works for you, sometimes it works against you, depending on who can cover. that kind of gets us off all the results from last week. Just to pick up on a couple of kind of National League level results, the Kent Eagles and Kings Lynn Young Stars. Kings Lynn coming away with a 59-31 victory there down in Kent, which seen them win the National Development Trophy. So congratulations to all the young stars. I'm sure that's one you're going to remember for a long, long time. And the Bellevue Colts beat the Middlesbrough Tigers 46-43 at the National Speedway Stadium as well. We've obviously covered off tonight's meetings. Later on in the week in the Premiership, you'll have Ipswich versus Bellevue, another massive test for Bellevue, Mitchell, away from home. And again, another poll in the field about where Bellevue are heading into the playoffs, because they've got two of the big guns this week away from home, and it's a fair barometer about where they are in terms of the playoff picture.
Yeah, and well, gives Mark Lemon a fair understanding of where his team is at. And, losing tonight, and if they lose another one on Thursday, I guess it doesn't go well for their, finishing top. And I'm not sure how the playoffs are decided, whether it's automatic pick or whether they get to choose still. But yeah, it's got to make them slightly nervous. But it is a good way to see where you're at. He's coming to this point, the end of the season. Like you say, you can learn where your weak spots are, whether you maybe need to change your riding order and things like that. There's lots of ways you can look at it from a team manager's perspective and also a rider's perspective. You get into practice on tracks that you may need to go to in a couple of weeks where there's a lot more on the line. So it's good. It's good all round. But yeah, it's a tough run of fixtures, I guess, for Bellevue.
I suppose in a different sense, it's a tough run of fixtures, but maybe you would rather have a tough run of fixtures getting into the playoffs and try and build form against teams that are around about you. So that would be the positive I would spin on that. Kings Lynn, they face Birmingham on Thursday evening as well, and the Oxford Spires host the Sheffield Tigers. Could be a good week for the Tigers if they manage to pick up an away win there. The Kings Lynn Birmingham match, for me, when you look through the kind of teams and stuff like that, they're interesting matchups at the moment, aren't they? Because both sides are built differently. It's been a tough old season for Birmingham and Birmingham fans, both on and off the track. But Kings Lynn, they've had a season where maybe they could have made a push for the playoffs, but didn't quite. They probably missed that kind of superstar or an out-and-out number one, really. But you would expect a home win here, but you just never know. I mean, the Birmingham side we're looking at managed to win at Leicester earlier on in the season, so nothing's guaranteed in Speedway. But I think they're actually two quite evenly matched sides, and I actually think this one will be a good meeting.
Yeah, I was going to say a fixture that was overlooked. Birmingham versus Kings Lynn tonight was on as well.
Yeah.
I think Kings Lynn coming away winners 47-43. So a good result for them. Tight match as well. But yeah, that's what
told you they were evenly matched. That was without me checking the scoreline there. You've either got it or you've no, Mitchell. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, hey, if Thursday's tight, I'll give it to you. I'll say, right, he knows his stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what like you're saying, Kings Lynn, maybe missed that solid number one. I mean, tonight they had Louis Kerr in at guests at number 6, 14+1.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of where they've been built all year, is to have that strong reserve. And tonight they got it through a guest. But then at the other end of the spectrum, what you're saying with the number one, Yankovic's back at number 1 now, and he scores 5+1.
Yeah. It's tough. So, when you don't... The thing is, for the all season long, really, Kings Lynn, I'm sure Rob Lyne would agree, you're looking for somebody to kind of grab it with the scruff of the neck, the number one position. Like, you're not expecting someone to go and average 8.5 points, but someone to kind of break out the pack and kind of grab it with both hands. It's never really happened, has it, where someone's just kept that consistency to keep themselves in the number one position, just that bit above the other riders and the averages as well. before we go into the kind of championship fixtures this week, so Innes's message saying Trent Leverington, Mitchell Davey and Josh Kruzonic, but now that we're on the subject of Queenslanders, Glasgow's 3 Queenslanders. Now, did you ride in the same team as Nick Morris at Glasgow?
I don't think I did, to tell you the truth. I think... Actually, I think I did maybe in 2010.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen a team photo where the two of you were in the same team.
I think it was it was me, myself, Josh, and Nick. But at that stage, Trent was possibly back at Newcastle.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know Glasgow, obviously, yeah, there's been three at the one time for Queenslanders. So, yeah, I'd be intrigued to find out if there's been more anywhere else.
Yeah, a bit of research for next week, mate.
How the hell am I supposed to research that? That's what that was a good drop in us there. That that's what. Obviously, when I was a young whippersnapper.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of fans that'll be able to help you out there if you make a cry for help. I'm sure that you'll get some. I'll just run through the kind of championship fixtures for next week, and you can maybe talk about maybe a few that kind of jump out at you. So through the week, I think we have some action at Glasgow. Am I right in saying that? You've got the second leg of the cup.
Yeah, that's a nice little. I think right in the bang middle of a heat wave in Glasgow. It's going to be fun.
A heat wave in Glasgow.
Yeah, 27 degrees, mate, apparently.
Oof, I tell you what, that is hot, isn't it? If that's the thing, is that people watching that and thinking, like watching us just now and thinking that we've got a heat wave in Glasgow and it's 27 degrees, it's actually a bit pathetic when you actually think about it. Poole take on Oxford in the BSN semi-final first leg on Wednesday, and as I say, the Glasgow Tigers take on the Edinburgh Monarchs in the KO Cup quarter-final second leg for that one. We've discussed the Premiership meetings from there as well. On Friday, the Monarchs take on the Comets at Armadale. Bears versus Gladiators at the Echo Arena. Then on Saturday, Comets Monarchs for the return. Gladiators Bears for the return of that one on Saturday as well. Glasgow versus Oxford if you're looking for some Saturday night action in Glasgow. And then on Sunday, the Cheetahs with a rare home fixture on a Sunday against the Comets. Comets very busy. They are all over the place.
And they got these fixtures to make up. And you hear it time and time again, riders say it when they're on the bike and getting the bike time, the laps under their belt. It can prove beneficial. So can they get that late season run? I'm obviously involved with the Monarchs, so I'm hoping obviously they can take some points off them. But at the same time, you can't go into them thinking they're easy matches. They're there's boys there that are talented riders, and they're definitely ones that you got to watch out for.
After Oxford's match at Glasgow on Saturday and the Comets at home to the Monarchs on Saturday, that meeting on Sunday at Oxford, I wouldn't expect to see too many clean bikes. I'm sure there's 14 riders going to that meeting who will not be doing bike washes and will be turning up as they were. So that'll be an interesting one to see how that goes. But that's Sunday night action, 6 o'clock. That kicks off at the Oxford Stadium as well, so I'm sure they do live streams there, so I'm sure if you're looking for some Sunday night action you can pick that up there as well. We were talking nicknames today, Mitchell Davey. Now this has came about because obviously over the last couple of weeks, I spent some time with Roy Clark at Redcar, and he's a man for the nickname. So I thought I'd bring this up because everybody's got their own kind of memories of when they're a youngster and stuff like that, and you hear some nicknames kicking about. But one thing I am interested in is this a common thing in Australia, because from being with and in and around Australians for the last 15 years of my life, they just put either an O or a Y on the end of everybody's name and just go with that. So was there any creative ones growing up or that you've heard around the Aussie tracks as you've been racing out there?
I don't know. That's what my dad's nickname growing up. Like everyone used to call him Gator, but
Right?
because he was a notoriously good skater, like good at doing starts. So, that's one sort of that I grew up hearing all the time, and wasn't until I got old enough. I said to Dad, "Why do they call you that?" And he said he was a good gator. So I said, "I'll race you." And, that was a different story. But yeah, I mean, you go like obviously your classic ones. Obviously, you got Ryan Douglas, known as Dougie. Wood was known as D-Dub. Like DW, he's in, you're not,
Is that, do you know, I can't believe that's actually took me a lot longer. I can't believe you've said that. And that's me just clicked on to what D-Dub actually means. I've
no.
never clicked on to the fact that that's what that means. And it's happened live on a podcast. I've never actually clicked to this, what D-Dub actually meant. What the?
Oh, wow. That's it's a special moment in this live. I'm sorry to out you like that, Framey. But
the heat radiating from me at the moment is insane. I can't believe that's me just clicking onto that. Not to out my wife or anything, right? But she's getting outed at the moment. We were sitting and she loved Faulty Towers. Now the way that Faulty Towers is spelled is FAWLTY, and she had just clicked on at 48 years age last week that it was a pun and a play on words. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say you can learn now that you have had to sort of take one on the
Listen,
chin.
I'm the master of deflection, Mitchell. I'm just deflecting away from myself on that one. Before Joanna says that, I'm going to say it that I'm actually deflecting away on that one. But yeah, send us your nicknames through just now, because as I say, we're going to talk about it. Lorraine had messaged earlier on today in regards to Josh Krzonik, just when I seen his name there, known as the Scrabble Man.
See, that was probably more amongst the fans. No one ever, I guess, like we've never told him that. I spent a lot of time with Josh growing up, and he was always JG.
See, Laura's mentioned that, right? See, if you're just getting called by your initials, that's probably boring, like Jordan Jenkins, JJ, or HA, Henry Atkins. So that was on her list of not her least favourite. She didn't say one she disliked, she actually said least favourite. That's the most Oxford thing ever. And she also didn't like Lucas Drimmell's Bobby for Check for Baby because he was the youngest. She was there. Didn't like them, but I do like one of the ones that she's pulled out, because this was going to be one of my favourites as well. Is Luke the Machine Colleen. I do like that. That's catchy. Luke, my wee boy, loves that. Every time he comes onto the track, here comes the machine. Love it. And Laura's also pointed out the freak in Todd Wiltshire. Now, Greg will attest to this, because I know he's watching. Last week when I was on tour and I went to Greg's to stay on the Friday night, we were talking about good gators, and we actually spent longer than what we should have watching Todd Wiltshire heats and making bets about how much he would be in the first corner before everybody else. He was aptly nicknamed the Freak because he was, for anybody that's not seen him, which I think with the demographic that watches and listens to this podcast most would, but he was unbelievable.
Oh, that's what he was. One I watched growing up, and I tried to watch and study and learn, because how good he was. And my God, does it make your racing life easier when you can gate like that? And it was, it's very cool to see. And he's we go back to obviously what Leon said against Sam. Like I raced against Todd when I was growing up, and obviously his career was coming to an end, which was a very cool thing to do. He still beat me, but that's it's still one of those moments that you can say you've raced against someone that you've watched and studied, and you tried to emulate, I guess, what they do, and it's very cool. But I'm more intrigued as to like why riders get certain nicknames and things like that. Like this, is there a story behind it and other things like that. I mean, Chris Holder always growing up, he was known as Noddy.
Well, it looks
So,
like Noddy, surely. when he was
Is
when he
that
was
how-
younger, I would say that. I mean, applying logic to that, Mitchell. Yeah, I would probably say that's that's the
well,
reason. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. So Graham Munsey also, obviously, we spoke about this in our chat earlier. He said well before his time, but also thought the Ladybank Express for George Hunter is quite a cool nickname. I like that, and he also liked Showtime Bobby, sorry. Greg has messaged as well, saying about Kevin Little's nickname, which was Sid. Somebody's got. Is this another one where I'm going to make a fool of myself here, and this is like some sort of play on this, and I don't really get it. I don't know where Sids came from. So, Greg, if you want to post where the Sids came from. He also mentioned about you being called Chips and Gravy, but I think back in the day I would have called you Bisto, or I would have called you Peas and Gravy. You must have got that all the time, to be perfectly honest. Mitch, you said earlier as well, Jeff Powell, aka Leggy. I always liked that nickname, but again, it was very apt if you ever seen Jeff Powell ride.
Yeah, I didn't get to see him ride. That's I was obviously the question came up in our chat, so I started talking to my wife Donna about it, and that was one she remembered from growing up. So there's loads of like, I guess, like visually how people have got their nicknames. But yeah, I'd like to hear some like sort of out there ones where it's just sort of out of the ordinary and things like that.
Yeah, so Greg has updated us on this, that it was a comic years ago. Must have been well before our time, Mitchell. But the thing is that my wife Joanna, every time I said like Kevin Little when we were away with the Bullets and stuff like that, she thought there's actually a rapper called Kevin Little as well. So she always assumed that. Not that I was away with the Kevin Little, the rapper, but that's where her mind went to. Right, okay, so Greg's trying to make me slip up here as well by saying stuff about Jason Lyons. I don't know his nickname, but we'll swiftly move on for that one. Greg also had mentioned about Peter Carr being the B-52 bomber, and also was known as the motor at Armadale.
Yeah,
I didn't particularly like the nickname of the motor, and then they had the motor show and stuff like that. I thought that was a wee bit naff. But surely we're missing the biggest nickname of them all, Bomber.
Yeah.
You literally can't say Chris Harris's name without either saying Bomber or saying Chris Bomber Harris. If you listen to commentators, they all say Bomber.
Birth certificate says Chris Bomber Harris. Surely. It's no, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy how like that's everybody just kind of calls them that. Ennis just put up a thing and saying Little and Large, Scott, you must remember them. Nope. I do not remember Little and Large. No. I don't think I'm maybe as old as what people think I am. I know I look older.
When I first came over, obviously my teammates, Trent Leverington was known as Showbags. I'm pretty certain he was.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Kaisak was known as obviously Bobby Cheesecake, just because. Lee Dickon, the Funky Chicken.
The Funky Chicken, yeah. Fire Starter, yeah. Fire Starter, old Shane Parker as well, yep. Because then you've got Sam Masters, who at Wolverhampton was known as the Shark Catcher, I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure he was called that. Maybe a Wolverhampton fan will jump in and correct me on that one. My favourites are from Roy, though. Roy's had a few shockers over the years, like really, really bad ones.
Good ones. And I just love how Roy can make it your nickname without you wanting it to be your nickname.
Yeah.
I'm not going to...
Sorry, Mitch?
What was the one that you and Greg are having? One likes it, one hates it. What was it?
The Terminator.
Oh,
So
I'm a
for
big
Louis
fan.
Kerr, but the thing is that see, just saying the Terminator, like you need to give it full Roy Clark to get
Yeah.
at number one, the Terminator, Louis Kerr. You need to give it the full beans, and then forgive me because I don't know whether this was. It was the same team, but I'm not sure if it was Andy Tully or Ludwig Lindgren. But I did like the lean, mean, heat-winning machine, Ludwig Lindgren. I
Yeah.
did like that. It's top notch. I can't remember the Anton Rosen one. That's the name for the Speedway name game for anybody that plays Anton Rosen. But he had one as well, but I can't remember it. And I think it was either Andy Tully or Ludwig Lindgren the other way about. But Roy, I'm sure will keep us right with this and come back to us with it. There is also someone who works with BSN who will remain nameless for the purposes of this conversation, who thought for longer than what they should have that Roy, for Jason Edwards, was saying the 𝗪𝗲𝗲𝗱𝗄𝘆 bastard rather than the 𝗪𝗲𝗲𝗱𝗆𝗄𝑆 blaster. So, like, you can shout that in front of a stadium of kids and stuff like that. So that should maybe have kept under wraps. I blame Greg Blair for telling me that. There was no danger that I was keeping that to myself. And I do apologise for the language, but we're at 11 o'clock at night on the live, and I'll put a warning I'll put a warning on the podcast for that one. But yeah, I did laugh at them. But there is some that kind of kick about that are good as well. But thanks to everybody who kind of chucked some in there. You get any more, Mitch? Any more for any more?
I don't know. I'm trying to rack me brain. Like, well,
It's funny,
Aaron,
Spud, yeah, Spud.
that's, yeah, that's what.
See,
I
you
do
do get a
like-
lot
I
of
feel-
you do get a lot of centre green announcers who will just they won't invent some of these nicknames as well for people. So yeah, and there is a lot that do invent nicknames for people as well.
Yeah, and that's what, like, obviously Louis Kerr probably never wanted Terminator, but if you've been and you've seen Roy Clark announce that live, it sticks with you. There's no going back. Louis Kerr is forever the Terminator.
Yeah.
He's changed it. It's just the way it is now. Sorry, Louis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, keep them coming. If you want to comment underneath this once this is finished, if one pops into your head, we'll be sure to mention it at some point, especially if it's funny and we like it. So, and I know for a fact Mitchell's going to get off this live show and he's going to start firing them in the group chat left, right, and centre. So we could maybe even post some later that we can maybe post some underneath this in the comment section once we go.
And this is dropped in David Norris, Floppy,
yep, absolutely, yep. I wonder where that came from. Do I want to know? Is it broadcastable?
Yeah, like, the story behind the nickname can be sometimes better. Obviously,
Yeah.
Jason Lyons' name that obviously we can't go into. That obviously Greg was trying to bait us out with.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's many a story about how nicknames come about and they stick, don't they?
Yeah. I wonder if there's like you get names in like Poland and Sweden and stuff like that, like our kind of banter, really. I wonder if that happens. Maybe someone can let us know. Anyway, we did have it, as you said earlier on in the show, we did have a podcast up last week, a special. If you've not listened to that, go back and have a listen. It's well worth it. Brian Conley, very engaging man, and he'll tell you all about the work he does behind the scenes trying to revive tracks. It's well worth a listen for all Speedway fans, even if I do say so myself. This week I've got coming up, we'll be releasing it, Mitchell. I know you were asking me today what was happening with it. I have got through the 85 hours of footage from the Dad Lad vlog that myself and my son filmed when we were on tour last week. Lots and lots of interviews with some of the sport's biggest stars and team managers, promoters, all people who are involved in the sport. Nice and behind the scenes. If you want to see a 9-year-old have a laugh and interview some of the biggest riders in the world and biggest names in the sport, definitely tune into that one. So they will be releasing that later on this week as well. It'll be a good laugh for that one. Don't forget, you can keep up to date with all things Talk Speedway on Facebook, Instagram, and X. And as we said earlier on, this was live on YouTube, so we'll be doing that each week now as well. So if you would prefer to watch us on your TV and keep your phone free for comments and stuff like that you want to post in, or you just want to scroll while you're watching us, you can do so at the Talk Speedway podcast YouTube channel. So if you want to subscribe to that now, that would be excellent. Don't forget, podcast of this will be available on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon Music tomorrow morning. So if you've not heard the full show and you want to listen to us back, you can do so there. If you get any questions and comments for us, please feel free. Messages are always open to anybody, and we'll be sure to get back to you if you want to contact us. Big thank you to our sponsors of STS, LVT, ESS, and of course our associated partner, the Speedway Riders Benevolent Fund as well. Mitchell and obviously Laura, thanks very much for joining us. Mitchell, thank you for joining me once again on Talk Speedway Weekly, episode 12. You rattled it through. I think alongside me, you've got the highest number of appearances this season. It's definitely not Muncie, but you're up there appearance-wise.
I know, that's what I was brought in to put the pressure on all these regulars, wasn't I? And I'm out laughing already.
Absolutely, mate. It's been good speaking to you again. Hopefully catch up with you, if not next week, over the next couple of weeks. If you're going to Speedway this week, be sure to enjoy it. Let us know on next week's show what you've been up to, what meetings you've attended, who's impressed you. We'll be sure to speak about it. But until next week on Talk Speedway Weekly, goodbye.